So hello, my name is Walter Lee, and I'm the program leader for the program Global and China Studies here at the OUHK with the School of Arts and Social Sciences. And so welcome you all here. And so within this, the following 45 minutes or so, I'm going to introduce you guys to something basic, okay? So the core steps of this program, and see if you guys would be interested, to see if you you really think that this is something you want, for your further study. And you guys may actually know that there is another program called Politics and Public Administration, which has the code of JS9003 in JUPAS. We actually do share some courses, okay? So for that one, that would be the study majoring in, usually we say political science, right? Okay. But we actually just have the term called Politics and Public Administration here with our university. And our program here is something very similar to that. So we are actually more focusing on what's going on nowadays in the world in international relations. Now, some of you may actually heard about, there is actually a subject called international relations, 国際關係啊，所謂, in some other universities in the world, right? For our program, it's actually very close to that. Okay, so you guys will come across with a lot of things related to, say, diplomacy, international organizations, global governance, as well as, of course, a lot of, bilateral relations, right? So the relations among countries. And most importantly, of course, we know that the relations between China and the United States nowadays would be the most important one. So that would also be something we are looking at. So we actually titled this program as Global and China Studies with an aim to tell you guys that, well, we are really focusing on nowadays most important issues in the world. Of course, you actually see that lots of these issues are actually, to a large extent, influenced by the policies of the great powers, especially the US and China, right? So, so that would be actually our focus. And if you are actually going to say 903, the other one, Politics and Public Administration, you will actually learn something else, okay? Say, on top of international relations, there will be public administration and say a political philosophy or something like that. But our focus here in this program, Global and China Studies, will be largely on international relations. Okay, so so today let me actually share with you some of the, I guess, more interesting and also up-to-date discussions within this area. Okay, so so let me just share with you this file, okay? So how to get ready for a more unpredictable future. Now, we know that we are in January, okay, the start of the year. So today is the 23rd. So time flies, and it's almost a month already, since the new year. And we still have more than 11 months to go, and God knows, a lot of us don't have an idea what will come, especially after experiencing, the past few years in Hong Kong, as well as in mainland China, in Asia, in the world, in many places. Just too many things have happened. And sometimes when you look at all these things, they just come so suddenly, out of the blue, just like what, just after a night, and then you in the morning when you wake up and switch on your phone or turn on the radio, you suddenly notice that, oh, okay, there is something called the COVID-19, or something has gone wrong in some other countries or whatever, So we actually say that, well, of course, the future is always unpredictable, okay, as always. as always unpredictable. But the unpredictability here we are talking about is, I guess, I mean, first of all, it's actually a kind of feeling. Okay, we actually feel a little bit anxious nowadays. Say that when we are talking about, say, what will happen in 2021, God knows, right? So that's why when you look at these, say, for example, there's always a magazine published by The Economist in the UK. Every year they have something like this. So the world in and the year, right? So this is the publication for this year. So as you can see, it's just like you go into a casino, gambling, and you actually don't know what actually the combinations of the outcomes can be, right? So in terms of politics, the economy, pandemic, whatever, okay. So it's a little bit like the casino feeling. So that's what I'm actually saying. It's a kind of feeling, unpredictability. Again, people can get nervous about it. People can get anxious about it. And especially nowadays, of course, with this pandemic, right, COVID-19, we still don't know when it's going to end, even with the use of vaccination nowadays, right? And normally in social science, and particularly in political science, academically speaking, we usually don't do predictions. Okay, you may actually from time to time, when you read the newspaper or read something online, you actually see there are always academics who will do some sort of prediction, but that's actually not. I can tell you that's actually not the proper way to do a political science study. We usually just do what actually happened. Okay, we actually use theories. We use all sorts of methodologies to do our studies and to try to explain what has happened and why things happen in such a way. And that's actually what we usually do at the academia with the study of political science and international relations. And so prediction is actually not something we usually will do, but still, of course, that's something every one of us will do almost like every year, especially at the beginning of the year. So what will happen, right? And you have this very famous person back in history, right, in Europe, Nostradamus. It's arguably he successfully predicted quite a lot of things, okay, happen in human history, including the September 11 attack in the US, etc. Okay, so since the end of last year, from the news and from some online discussions, you actually notice that, well, okay, people started to talk about all these things again. And recently, of course, with the coming, the Chinese New Year is just coming within weeks. You actually see, in the markets or when you just ride on the subway, and sometimes you see those advertisements, those fortune tellers in town, they're trying to predict, okay, so now it's not just predicting your personal fortune, but also predicting how Hong Kong will do, or how the world will do in the coming years. So since when has the world become so unpredictable? The kind of drastic changes we can see in the past few years, we usually would say started back in 2015 and 2016, especially when, say, for example, the UK, people had a referendum there, so they voted for Brexit. Okay, so now, of course, we know that the UK officially left the European Union. And then in 2016, with the election of Donald Trump as the US president, right? So that's also a huge change brought to the US and also to the world as well. And then you have the rise of what we call populism, okay? Populism, 所謂民粹主義 populism. So, and you have the populist leaders there who actually do things quite off track, not really according to the original ways or the style of doing politics in the Western world in liberal democracy. So so you have that, and of course, all of us know that in Hong Kong in the past few years we experienced something really, upheavals, unpredictable. Even back in the very early 2019, I guess not many people in Hong Kong could predict what would actually happen in the rest of the year, okay, with the anti-extradition law protests and the social movements and all the social events afterwards. And by 2019, and I guess also not many people could predict there would be something called the National Security Law to be passed in 2020. So again, that's actually something you can see, like things actually happen in such an unpredictable way, and it always change. Things always change. And generally, honestly, people nowadays can get quite pessimistic or get quite disappointed about things, but then still, we have to live, right? We have to keep our life going. So we still have to figure out, so, okay, what's going on there and why things happen in that way. And say, for example, when we look at what happened in Hong Kong in the past 2 years or so, politically speaking or socially speaking, one thing, if you would like to figure out the reasons behind, of course, I guess some of you will know that it has to do with international relations. So the rivalry between China and the United States, right? So it's actually not something, what you can observe in Hong Kong in the past 2 years, it's actually not just something you can just focus in Hong Kong and then try to look for all the solutions or explanation. It's not. Because back there, okay, you have a background of, the great power relations between the US and China. And you have to understand how these two countries, they get along with each other. And so as to understand, okay, why such thing happen in Hong Kong, and then what will actually happen, if you would like to do a little bit of prediction there. And I guess nobody would actually predict, what actually can just happen earlier this month in the US, and of course before Joe Biden sworn in as the new US president, right? So you have this attack by a large group of people, in the Capitol, right, in Washington, D.C. And at least to the Western society, it's actually a great surprise. How come, this such kind of thing can't happen in a liberal democracy, especially like a leading country like the U.S., right? So so again, this is actually unpredictable. Or if you would say, well, this is something you can predict, that's also okay. So but you always have to give your reason, right? Give your evidence of why you actually force beforehand, even before such thing happened. So so again, that's unpredictable. And then will such thing happen again or worse? We don't know. And even nowadays, when you look at, just these few days, when you watch the news, you actually see there are lots of discussions in the United States and also in the Western media. And you actually see that people are generally quite hopeful, a little bit more hopeful and happy about this new president, but then still having a feeling of uncertainty, still uncertain. And you actually know that on the hands of Joe Biden, he has a lot of things to do, lots of tasks, a lot of problems to solve there as well. And I think even for the US president, for Joe Biden, he doesn't actually have a full answer for what will happen, in his country and also in the world in the coming 11 months of the 2021. COVID-19, of course, as I have said earlier, another thing we can't really, this is just like certainly, of course, out of the blue, since the end of 2019 and early 2020, right? So suddenly this coming of the pandemic, right? And originally, perhaps a lot of us would think that, well, when the summer comes, then this problem will just like SARS, right? Back many years ago in Hong Kong, it would just disappear automatically, but it's not. Obviously, it's not, and almost for the whole 2020 and for the whole year, right? So we are actually living in this kind of inconvenience, of course, right? With social distancing in many countries, with the quarantine measures, and just today in Hong Kong we also have the quarantine. You know, in terms of the area, you know, this kind of lockdown, right? As a policy. So this is also a thing. So when you look at all these things, I just selected some, okay, some more important ones, and all of us know, okay, these kind of effects just happened in the past few years, and they are important not just because they are on the news, but because these things they are not just because they are important not just because they are on the news, but because they are affecting us. They're affecting us directly now, okay? So say if you are thinking about which programs you choose for your further study, say from my perspective, when I'm actually telling you, okay, what's actually there with global and China studies, I can actually tell you this program actually enables you to understand more about how our framework, the environment, political and economic environment actually is actually affecting us and affecting us in a lot of very important ways. For example, one of the most important things you guys may think about is after graduation, what kind of jobs I can have, right? So which industry am I going into? Where will I work? When will I actually stay in Hong Kong or go to some other countries or go to mainland China or go to whatever places? You have to think about that. And I think for a lot of the us nowadays here in Hong Kong, not just for you guys, but also for a lot of people in their 30s, in their 40s, 50s years old, people may have a lot of question marks in their minds because we are living in a very unstable, unpredictable world nowadays. So when you are thinking about which job you are going to take, you can't just think about that. You have to also think about where I'm going to work. Or I know many people nowadays, of course, in Hong Kong are thinking about migrating, right? Leaving the city to another country. So if that's also a kind of plan, then say if you are going to leave, then in the future, then where are you going to and why? Is that really a good place for you to settle down? And then you actually need to understand more about the politics and the economy, the society, okay? All these things are very essential for you to understand, when you make important decisions, right? So, the approach of this program is like you actually understand first the general framework, okay? And then you can actually be, having a clearer mind of what decisions you can make in the future. So your job, the place where you would like to settle in, okay, whether you would like to stay in Hong Kong or move on to another place. And then in the future, of course, you come across more with decisions in investment, okay, in your personal development. That's also very relevant. When you decide where you would like to go or to have a job or to have a life, then of course it has to do with your lifestyle, okay, the quality of life. If you understand more about the politics, the economy, the changes in the society, all the driving forces within the politics, the economy, and the society in certain countries or generally in the world, then you have a better idea of where you can go, okay, for a better quality of life living. And of course, very importantly, personal safety and security. Recently, people also talk about the possibility of the happening of wars in the coming years as well, okay, especially with the rivalry between China and the United States. So would there be something like military conflicts? Well, still the same thing. I'm not going to predict, but there could be some chances. Okay, I can't actually say that. Well, we will actually stay like this. Okay, all peaceful for all the years to come, especially when you see what's going on with between these two superpowers. China and the United States. You actually see there are actually still a lot of unstable factors there. So this is something people have to consider as well. Say like, well, East Asia, for the past a lot of years, many decades, it has been rather stable. But then we actually do have some hotspots, which may trigger military conflicts in the future. For example, like the South China Sea, for example, Taiwan, for example, North Korea, the Korean Peninsula, so understand the backgrounds more, and then when you come back to think about your future, then I think you will actually have a clearer picture. So generally speaking, by studying international relations, within the context of global and China studies, you will actually see that these are actually some of the factors that drive all those changes we have seen so far. For example, the inequality. Some people are extremely rich, some people are extremely poor. This kind of inequality is not just within Hong Kong or within China nowadays, but it's global. You can also see that in the US. You can also see that in Europe, in India, in Southeast Asia, in many countries in the world. And then people get more and more frustrated about the government's policies, right? So because of inequality, because as well as in the Western world, more and more people are getting frustrated about their political system and government as well. So we have the rise of populism, and populism actually push for, say, for example, Brexit, for example, the election of Donald Trump back in 2016, etc. And you also have the relative decline of the liberal West. So the Western world has led the world for many, many years, for centuries. But nowadays, you actually see with the coming of COVID-19, they still have a lot of new cases every day, as you guys know. In Europe, in the US, still a big problem. Economically, of course, not doing well nowadays. And even when you're talking about the political system, you started to see increasingly they have instability. Just like what I told you earlier, what happened in Washington, D.C. Just weeks ago, in the past, of course, certainly you can't imagine such a thing will happen. So what's going on there, with this relative, we say relative, not absolute, relative decline of the Western countries. And such decline can be peaceful. It can be quite belligerent. That means quite aggressive as well. It depends on whether we will have military conflicts in the future or not. And because of mainly because of COVID-19 and as well as the protectionist policies given by some of the Western countries, especially the US under Trump, more and more countries nowadays, they tend to shut their doors. And sometimes it's like a result of policy, sometimes because of COVID-19, people can't travel nowadays so easily. So we have something called the deglobalization or slowbalization, a term actually discussed by the Economist magazine, right? So the whole world seems to slow down, slowing down nowadays, So so if it's not so convenient for goods to flow and for us to travel, then what will happen in the future? I believe a lot of you may not have the chance to travel out of Hong Kong in the past year, including me, I'm actually trapped here as well. So we still don't know what's the next time, when will be the next time we can actually hop on the plane and travel somewhere else. But when that day come, then what will happen? We still don't know. That world will be a different world compared to the world before COVID-19 already, in terms of the hygiene measures we have to take, or I have no idea, like the pilots, they have to be retrained as well, I guess, because a lot of the planes they have landed already, right? So this is also one thing, and also the continued rise of China, and not just about China, but also the non-Western countries as well. We are also talking about, say, countries like Brazil, India, Turkey, Indonesia, Mexico. Okay, like these countries, they are all rising. Okay, so what will the world become? Okay, under the influence of these rising powers, right? And will these, will the rise of these countries be peaceful or not peaceful? That would be another a very important question, right? And then the human exploitation of the environment, that's something we all know, destruction of the environments by human beings, the depletion of resources, and also some people would say that the COVID-19, right, and also some other kinds of pandemics are also the results of our what we have done to the environment. Okay, so such a change. Strictly speaking, that's the result of climate change. So we are actually already experiencing extreme climates. Okay, in the past few years, probably including back some years ago with the super typhoon, right? We experienced in Hong Kong. So at that time, people talk about, wow, Hong Kong has not experienced such a strong typhoon for decades. So why would it happen? Probably climate change or something like that. And and also technology, okay, also something that's affecting us every day. Okay, we all use our cell phones, right? We all use the internet. So social media, right? Every one of us would actually use that. So very important. And that's just one part. We also know there is something called AI or big data, and facial recognition, lots of the things. Those things can actually quite be politicized as well, being used by not just by the people or by the society, but also by the government as well. So that's also something will hugely affects our life. So that's also something we look at. Global issues. Okay, so on the one hand, when we say global studies, so these are the issues, some of the issues we'll be looking at. Okay, so the environment, technology, security, wars, inequality, refugees, okay, democracy, okay, like these things. So so when we look at the actors there, what our program will be mainly focused on are actually these. Okay, we are looking at the world as well as China, and we look at how these two say agents, okay, they interact with each other. And then we have Hong Kong, right? We are here, and we actually see how we interact with the world and as well as with China. So standing here, then we actually see all these issues from this angle. Okay, so these three things are the most important ones. When we talk about the world, we are mainly referring to the liberal international order. Okay, what we call the liberal international order, led mainly by the U.S. and also some major Western countries. So it has been the world order since 1945, the end of the Second World War. Things we all know very well, for example, liberal democracy, the protection of human rights, and also the rule of law, freedom, liberty, etc. Okay, all these things, as well as to uphold international law, multilateral institutions, just such as the United Nations, the World Bank, IMF, etc. Okay, so our world has been under such an order for more than 70 years. Okay, so that's actually the world led by the Western countries. And now, now these are actually just some of the explanations, okay, of the liberal international order. So rule-based, the rule of law. But nowadays we actually see that it's actually declining, okay. And on the other hand, you have the rise of some other powers, say like China or as I have said, Russia or Brazil or Turkey, like these countries. So this is actually the really general framework of the world we are now living in. So we have to look at how all these things are affecting us. Okay, so on the one hand, we have the world order looking like this, and then we have China, okay, becoming more and more powerful and important. And whether, I mean, when you look at China, there are actually different perspectives. So some people would think that China is actually a threat to the world, or at least to the Western liberal democratic countries. And some people would think that, well, China actually has to be a responsible power, okay, to join the liberal international order to a certain extent and to take up some of the responsibilities. So it's not necessarily an enemy. And some people would take China's rise as a kind of opportunity for them to develop, for them to get rich, for them to get some benefits, okay? And some are actually more pessimistic, talking about, okay, someday, the Chinese regime will actually collapse or something like that. So you have all these different perspectives, even within the academia, okay, different scholars, the past few decades, they have all these different ideas. And when we are talking about China's role in international relations or in global governance, it can be a follower of the liberal international order. It can shape or challenge the current order. It can destroy the current order, or it can actually just create something else. Just like something like, I guess you guys have heard about the Belt and Roads, right? 所謂一帶一路嘅嗰個倡議One Belt and Roads or Belt and Roads Initiative. That's actually something like a rule maker. Okay, so China tries to, on the one hand, of course, is following some sort of the rules set up by the Western countries, for example, to join the United Nations or the World Trade Organization, right? But on the other hand, you see increasingly China is actually making up its rules and creating its own organizations and calling other countries to join as well. So would that be something like something that China has created to challenge the current Western system? Then it's debatable, okay? And some people, they would also say that, well, China is actually just a free rider, okay, making use of the Western system, but then not bearing any responsibility. So you have all these kinds of different angles to look at China's role and functions in the international relations, okay? And these are actually going to be really increasingly important. So so that would be something, just very briefly, what this program would be mainly focused on. In many of the courses that our students are taking, this would be always something coming back. So I would also like to say that, well, the way you can equip yourself better for an unpredictable future would be something like this, okay? I guess no matter which program you will join, okay, in the future, then these four things would always be very important. For example, mission, okay? I'm not sure like how many of you have already got in your mind that what kind of jobs or what kind of career you would like to follow in the future. Okay, so think about what you would like to become, what you would like to be, okay, in the future. Not necessarily just for jobs, but also what kind of a person you would like to become, and how you would like to contribute to the society, right, to the world in the future. And I think that's actually a very, very popular thing, for a student to think about. And then the vision, okay? So of course, we are all very concerned about things happening in Hong Kong, but how about something outside Hong Kong, right? In China, in Asia, okay, in the world, okay? So, and also not just about, say, like the people around you, but also people in other countries, people in other societies. So you have this kind of global, national, international, and also multicultural horizon. And for this program, Global and China Studies, that's exactly what we are focusing on, to enable you to have this kind of vision, to look not just within our very tiny city, but also look beyond that, okay, to know more about what's going on, even far away, in South America, in Africa, or in South Pacific or wherever. Okay, so in our study of social sciences here, our teachers will usually always introduce you to a lot of different kind of case studies, and also the critical thinking and independent thinking, right? One of the most important kind of training in political science is that you have to develop your own argument. So say if you are submitting your assignments in the future, your written assignment especially, okay, your research essays, then we'll always ask you to show your argument. Okay, so what would you like to tell me? Okay, what do you think about certain things? And you have to back it up with some evidences you have found, right? So try to tell us why you agree with something, why you disagree with something. Okay, at the university, everybody has the freedom, okay, to say what you believe, okay, to put forward your argument. But the most important thing is that has to be based on some sort of facts, okay. So to develop this kind of thinking, and also not just thinking, but also in your writing as well, and in your speeches. And language, of course. If you would like to have a very sharp mind, then you need to polish your language. It's not just English and Chinese, but in our program, we would encourage our students to also learn at least one more foreign language. Okay, so just this coming semester, we are planning to organize some French language courses for our students, together with Alliance Française, 法國文化協會. So very possibly they would actually have teachers coming to our university to teach our students some. It's actually a whole course about, say, like at least 10 lessons of French language, and we can actually just keep developing it. Okay, and we also have Japanese language there as well. So so altogether, these four things would actually make you a very well-equipped graduates, when you get graduates. So this would be something briefly I would like to share with you here. And any question you would like to ask? Okay, let me see now. Are there any study tours related to global and China studies? Yes, we have got plans, but of course, we have to wait till the pandemic situation to settle down a little bit, but we do have plans, okay? And I actually have discussed with the first year and second year students in global and China studies back last year, and got their opinion. And it looks like lots of them, they would like to go to Europe and also go to Central Asia, so countries like Kazakhstan, those countries. And we actually do have that route in our plan, as well as two countries, Turkey and Greece. Okay, Turkey and Greece will also be one of our focuses there. And we'll actually see, okay, once the pandemic situation got settled down a little bit, then we'll actually keep this going. Yeah, there will definitely be study tours just for this program. But if you are talking about the whole school, we also do have study tours for students in the whole school. So that means, say, every year we at least have 2 or 3. In the previous years, we actually went to the Netherlands. We went to Russia. Okay, and for those tours, there will be students from different programs joining together, and I mean, if you would like to travel abroad, then that could also be a choice as well. Okay, so 2 routes. Okay, the next question, when will the interview be arranged? Okay, so we are actually still collecting the applications, probably beginning next month, okay, after the Chinese New Year, okay, after Chinese New Year, then we'll begin with the interviews. And it depends on the applicants' backgrounds, okay. Some of you may be invited for an interview in order to get the offer. Some of you may not need the interview in order to get the offer. It depends, okay? Because for in the past 2 years, we actually got applicants from very different backgrounds for this program. Okay, of course, a lot of the applicants, they are the graduates from associate degree programs and high diploma programs here in Hong Kong. But we also do have applicants from mainland China, from Southeast Asia, and even from the United States as well. So sometimes people, they just got their high school, not high school, sorry, the previous academic results from other countries. So we have to see what to do. 如有興趣修讀前有沒有需要任何嘅基礎？基礎嘅話咧就點講咧？我唔知你嘅意思係講緊你嗰個係真係 qualification 嗰度嘅基礎，定係話你知識上面嘅基礎？咁你如果係當然啦，你如果係要申請 senior year entry 嘅話咧，咁譬如你一入嚟就想2年班或者3年班，咁你之前最好，譬如如果你已經喺香港讀書啦，咁你已經有一個副學士嘅學位或者高級文憑咁樣，咁呢個係基本啦。咁如果係 year one 入學嘅話，基本上我哋都有啲係啱啱高中畢業嘅入嚟嘅都有，咁year one 嚇。咁科目亦都係，因為我哋都知道其實有啲同學咧就佢本身唔係之前主修 politics 嘅，甚至乎唔係 social sciences 嘅。咁其實都鼓勵大家可以試嘅，因為我哋呢科老實講都好跨科，都好 multidisciplinary。咁所以就點講咧？不妨可以試一試，因為我哋要睇翻你份 transcript。即係譬如話，如果我哋之前譬如收過有日本研究嘅 Japanese Studies 嘅同學嚇，咁即係睇佢個 transcript 之前，佢係有讀過啲同國際關係啊，或者係東亞社會啊呢方面有關嘅嗰啲嘢，咁我哋都可以當係 relevance。咁再去考慮到底俾唔俾佢2年班，或者請佢可能由1年班開始讀就補翻啲科咁樣。但係即係都歡迎大家補。知識上面嘅基礎，老實講咧，如果大家入到嚟讀啲科，讀得想順利一啲，冇咁辛苦咧，就我覺得唔一定要有 politics 嘅底，但係你語言我覺得好緊要，尤其是英文。我哋所有嘅課程老實講都係用英文嚟上堂，同埋readings 都係用英文，你交功課都係用英文。咁好多時候我嘅經驗就係過去嗰幾年，我見到同學通常讀得比較辛苦啲，都係因為語言上面嘅問題，即係你個表達。有好多嘢其實你學，即係你講係 politics 啊、international relations 嗰啲嘢入到嚟，你可以再 pick up 呢個你自己本身，即係你 serious about your study， 基本上我唔覺得係個問題。但係個語言，所以即係 train 好啲英文，我覺得緊要，基本上嚇。咁另外如果你有翻些少對，譬如對歷史啊、對社會、對歷史、對社會呢啲有翻個感覺嘅話，老實講都係有幫助嘅。因為我哋讀好多有關而家呢個世界發生嘅事情，其實同以前發生過啲乜嘢事係好有關係。What is the interview manner via Zoom or in person? Now, till now, okay, what according to what I received from the registry, is all on Zoom. Okay, all on Zoom. So I still haven't heard about any change in this kind of policy. So yeah. And for the interviews, there will be only personal interviews. We don't have any group interviews. Okay, just one-to-one interview. Any other question？ 仲有冇啲乜嘢其他問題？咁大家可以翻去或者考慮一下啦嚇，即係諗一諗啦，睇下有冇興趣嚇。咁就好似我頭先咁講啦，基本上就好 multidisciplinary 嘅。去嗰啲其他嘅院校咧，就基本上直情叫國際關係咁樣嘅一個科目嚇。咁嚟緊9月份，我哋就係第3年嘅同學就入嚟。我哋而家已經有 Year One 同 Year One 同 Year Two 嘅同學嚇。 咁就都 OK，我哋亦都因為係細嘅 program 啊，咁我哋係比較可以有一個 close 一啲細 group 啲嘅一啲咁樣嘅一個 interaction。咁就算係譬如過去一年，因為 COVID-19 嘅緣故，我哋冇辦法真係好可以去面對面啊，即係我哋啲堂冇辦法翻嚟面對面咁樣上堂啊溝通到，但係我哋都有啲 Zoom 嘅 meeting 啊，咁同學都有啲咩需要啊，或者有啲咩問題，咁同學都保持即係密切接觸嘅嚇，呢個就係咁樣。咁你上堂咧，譬如話，如果你哋入到嚟呢個 program，咁 take 嘅嗰啲 courses 咧，其實有好一大堆都會同其他嘅 program 嘅同學就混合一齊上。咁尤其是係政嗰邊，即係politics and public administration 嗰邊嚇。咁一二年班就尤其是，因為嗰啲咧通常打底嘅科目，咁通常一大班咧就混埋一齊上。咁到三字頭嗰啲科開始咧，高班啲嗰啲堂咧，咁你就會見到你哋即係Global and Trans Studies 嘅同學又會自己 group 埋一齊啦。就會上嗰啲比較真係呢一科嘅精要嘅嗰啲科目嚇。即係譬如國際組織啊、全球治理啊、中國國際關係啊、非西方國際關係啊，嗰一堆嘅話就係屬於我哋自己 program 嘅同學。OK，會唔會仲有啲乜嘢其他問題？嗱，你隨時如果仲有啲咩問題嘅話，可以聯絡我啦。咁睇下先啊，我唔記得咗整呢個。咁就係啦，咁就咁我係 Dr. Walter Lee 啦。咁呢個係我嘅 email 嚟嘅。咁大家如果有啲乜嘢需要咧，有咩問題咧，咁隨時都可以再 email 我嚇。OK，咁好，咁多謝晒大家今日出席啊！